stream on the channel. Hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I've been having a wonderful 2024. I can't believe it is 2024. Now, obviously, I have an interesting discussion video, but before I even dive in, I want to talk about my health because I think that's very important. Start talking about it for a bit. And, anyways, so let me just think. Let me try and recall what's been going on. So when it comes to the sores in my mouth, I still have them, and for some reason, the one right underneath my lip, above my teeth on the gums, for some reason that's not going away. And anytime you press on the sores seem to be underneath the skin for some reason. You press on those sores, and all of a sudden, below, right below it, there's a well, not so right below, but a couple inches below, a bubble is formed. A bubble that barely, that rarely sets because the bubble is still there. It pops and then it forms again. It's very strange. So that bubble keeps filling up with blood and stuff like that every time I keep pressing the lumps on top. Still have the other lumps underneath my tongue. I think I have more of them. What else? I also have some. I also have that same hard lump on my palate. What else? When it comes to my lymph nodes on my face, I still have them. I've also, I think I mentioned this. I'm not sure which channel, but I mentioned it. I have, a bunch of sores on my head, and obviously, I've noticed them around last year, maybe mid 2023, and some of them is very harsh. When you just touch them, they just really hurt. One of them is just so hard, like you just press it, it hurts so bad, you know. Um, what else? I'm trying to think. I mentioned I have a spot on my chest. Don't even know if that is a health problem or that's just my skin. I don't even know. Um, so lymph nodes. I keep finding lymph nodes every single time. A couple weeks ago, I found a lymph node. Like on my like below my on the back of my head, just close to the end of the air. I found one, and then I found recently, I found that I have two lymph nodes. I think one of them each of them are different sizes. I found them, guess where? To the sides of my privates, not right close, but just above it. You know, right above. Yeah, somewhere there I found it, and that's kind of the craziest parts because I keep finding them. I don't want to find them. I'm so tired of it. I still have some of those lumps in my ears, but um, I don't know what else to do. This entire 2023 has been nothing but horror for me, and it's been nonstop stress. And what else? I'm trying to think. With my stomach, I will give you an update that um, I would say that I don't know. It's okay if I keep eating well. It's okay. So I have to keep trying my best to eat well. Anyways, I have to keep forcing myself to eat well because sometimes I get distracted. Today I ate for breakfast um, chicken curry, which is not so surprising, but it would be perfect to have porridge. So maybe it's porridge some other time. Anyways, I know I'm missing more stuff about my health. I just don't really know what else to cover. So let's just go on with the topic of today. I hope you guys can see it. I hope you guys can see what I'm talking about. Um, so the question is about conservative TV. Now, I say TV because obviously I don't really want to just go so vague and say conservative art. Mostly conservative TV because that's going to be the discussion of today's topic. So, if you guys don't know, when it comes to media, especially your entertainment, such as your big budget movies or your low budget movies, or maybe your average budget movies, a lot of them have been getting so political. And the problem is that when you point it out, it doesn't change. You can complain about it all you want. Trust me, I remember way back in the day, people were complaining about stuff like this, and nothing has changed so much when it comes to getting better. It's gotten even worse, and now more people are noticing it, which you know what? I noticed long ago before these people, and guess what? They are now trying to understand what's going on. Now, the next thing is, of course, why. Well, let me go in a more smooth flow. The next thing is we need alternatives, and alternatives doesn't necessarily have to be um, like the just total opposite of what they're doing, but it can also maybe be very similar, but just do it in a better way, in a properly constructive way. For instance, let's just say there's a show about cats. Let's just say there's a show about cats. Okay, just an example because uh, you know what? I think it's just very easy to go with this example. And okay, it's so woke all of a sudden. They start inserting all the politics all together and whatnot. Now, people don't want this. They don't want this. So what's they want is something alternative to it, but technically they don't really want to be beaten the same way. So for instance, if conservatives make a Sam Cat show, but instead it's, you could say, more political or the same amount of politics, obviously people are going to be even annoyed with that too. Now, I'm not saying politics can't be in shows or media, it's just that politics now have a more, you could say, main seat approach, like the front seat approach, than having like being part of the build up of something, When you watch a lot of the old shows as well, you notice there's a lot of these messages, a lot of these cringy like messages where they just say something out of the blue. It has nothing to do with the show itself. They have these messages, and especially in old kids cartoons, they used to do something like that. But what's better is when the kids cartoons actually have it in an episode, like they work with the storyline instead of just putting the message at the end or whatever, right? Now that's the thing, there's just too much of it, there's just too much politics, and things that weren't political are getting political. And then we ask ourselves, why is it happening? And then we start realizing, okay, a lot of these writers, they don't really care about writing the actual fun stuff, they just want to push politics because they only think politics, that's it. And they have other reasons too, but I think the biggest reason is just that they just can't really help themselves, can they? So what can conservatives do right now? Now, I watched this video a couple of days ago. I kind of skimmed through it, and today I just watched a bit more of it, but properly. Just like I did skim through it a bit more, but obviously I was less jumpy on the timeline of the video, so I watched it carefully, and this was an interesting critique of conservative media in general, like the new stuff. And obviously there was a lot of criticisms of Daily Wire. And if you guys don't know, I made videos on the Daily Wire. That's why I'm making this live stream, this topic in this channel, because I have done this topic with Daily Wire before, so I think we can just continue it. Now, from what I found out, this is the interesting thing. Now, I saw in that video that there was a comment from an animator. So I'm just saying, just a simple animator. Possibly, it could be fake. It could be fake. It could be real. We don't really know. But if it's real, what the comment said was they had no idea what they were doing with the show. And I'm talking about Daily Wire's um, flagship show, Chip Chilla. So Chip Chilla obviously a lot of people when they criticize it, the biggest thing is it's going to be a Bluey knockoff, right? And I defended it. I defended the existence of this show a couple months ago, and I had no idea about the background or whatever. And I personally ignored the conversation about stuff like this because I just knew it was going to be very biased. I knew it was going to be very biased because if I watch a bunch of videos about Chip Chilla, which I have when Benki was out, I watched like 3 or 4 episodes. No, 3 or 4 videos, I think, or maybe skimmed through a couple of videos, looked at the comments, and obviously it just felt very, very unwanting, unwelcoming for me to even have a proper understanding because I felt like, okay, this is also coming from a political perspective rather than you could say a genuine perspective, you know? Or maybe these people were genuine with their criticisms, but then they just let politics be a bit more in the front seat. So I ignored a lot of these criticisms because I was just like, you know what, they're not really coming from the best place. And that was it, right? And then there was this one YouTuber who, you know, random video recommended to me one night, and I watched some of it. As I said, I skimmed some of it, and this person also acknowledged that um, there's biases in also the opposite side as well. You know, a lot of biases when it comes to criticizing Daily Wire and all the other companies. For instance, here's the funny thing. Right now, there's this series, the Tuttle Twins. It's also a book series and also an animated series. It's been getting a lot of criticism because it's propaganda by a lot of folk on the left. Not everyone, but a couple of them. And the interesting thing is that why all of a sudden now it's a big issue, and they have been saying politics belong everywhere, but then you realize they don't like certain type of politics everywhere. So there you go. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? The biases are everywhere, and this person acknowledged that, and then the person started speaking about why Daily Wire's Chip Chilla was not good, and I understood a bit more now because of it. And he showed this one screenshot of a comment of this animator saying that they had no idea they were making this cartoon for the Daily Wire, and they didn't even have walk cycles or anything like that. So that's the thing that disappoints me because, you know, the fact that Daily Wire can put so much effort into their real shows. Look, just watch any of their behind the scenes footage of the Pendragon cycle. Watch it. Just watch at least one video of it. The amount of dedication, the amount of work, the amount of money spent on the sets, on the actors and actresses and everything in it, and the props, and all the people working behind the scenes, behind the camera, they spent a lot of money on that. The fact that they can pour so much money into this, even on the scripts and the main cast and everything like that, but the fact that they could not make like walk cycles or whatever really disappoints me because they could have hired a couple of people to work on that first and then give it to them. Because when you're working with a major animation company, even if it's one less known but they have a lot of employees or whatever, if you're working with a company like that, you need to give them everything, and if they want something extra, you have to give it to them. Like maybe you forgot to do something, then you give it to them. You realize you forgot it, and then you give it to them. So the fact that walk cycles weren't even a thing, it's like, wow, really? Because when you see the amount of effort they put into their real shows, it's like fantastic. It blows your mind because there's so much of love in that. But for the cartoon, the original cartoon, there was like, I would say some love, but then it just felt like it fell apart at the end. So the Bent Key is just going to be known as the show as the place where it has the Bluey knockoff. And it turns out that, you know, when the animators were being told about Chip Chilla, they were told that it was a lot like Bluey. It's going to be a lot like Bluey. Now you guys know I don't like Bluey. I don't like Bluey at all. So when a show is going to be very similar like that, I'm not going to like it either. And the thing is that it disappoints me because there could have been more, at least, direction to what the show could be, and that would have been perfect. And if you look at the original animations, like the original concept designs for these characters, it's like, wait a minute. Um, they managed to have such interesting designs, but then obviously at the end it turned out to be more of this different design, and it wasn't my favorite. Wasn't my favorite. And that's the thing. At least put in the effort. That's just my thing. Like, okay, fine, fine. Um, if you're just working on your own, I get it. It's going to be difficult, but Daily Wire has been growing for some time, and they have a lot of employees. The fact that they were willing to spend 50 million on Crowder alone shows that they can spend a lot of extra money on that. But why not spend a bit more money on the animation? Fine, you got this animation team with you, but why all of a sudden just not make the walking animations or whatever? At least hire someone to do it, you know. At least have a bit more sense of direction when it comes to stuff like that, so you can make the animators' life more easier because they're doing all the hard stuff. Um, so that's the problem. They needed a bit more direction from uh, from the people pitching the idea to them. So there you go. It's just vexing. And that's the thing they need to improve on. So number one, I would say is make I would say try to make something interesting. You know, try to make something interesting. I get the idea of a homeschooling family of chinchillas sounds fun, but then at the end when I found out that they were trying to do something like Bluey, it breaks my heart because they can do something else different. You know, just because it's a family thing doesn't mean it's Bluey. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? There have been family shows, even reality family shows for generations, and each of them they feel different. They feel different. They exist differently. So why couldn't they do something different? That's just it. That's just it. It's fine if they got inspiration from Bluey, but to make it look so close like Bluey, it breaks my heart because Bluey is not my favorite show. So obviously, I'm gonna get even more pissed off. Um, so they could have done something a bit different. Take inspiration, but go somewhere else with it. You know. So yeah, I'm a bit disappointed in that, in the fact that there was not much direction, and all they could do is just say, well, it's close to Bluey, and that's it. I guarantee you, Chipchilla could have been even better if they kept a bit of the original designs, and if they made it a bit more different, a bit more adventurous. You know what I'm saying? Because you can take simple ideas and make it really good, but obviously, it just felt like it all fell apart. So have a proper direction. Okay, even if the show isn't going to be perfect, at least have a proper direction on where you want it to go. Be a bit more active with the animators, speak to them a bit. You don't have to speak to them like on a personal level, but talk to them about the show itself, and make sure all conversations are about the show. What else? What else? What else? What else? I'm trying to think. So the thing is that it disappoints me, but at the same time, I think they can actually pick up from this. I think they can learn a lot from this. They have a lot of room to learn from this, and a lot of wealth to learn from this. Even if it's just a couple bucks, I'm sure they can even learn from that. The truth is, they need to learn from this now. Learn from this, and how can they basically make something better? And how can they at least try to do slight different stuff? You know what I'm saying? I hope I'm making sense. This is not a scripted video, so I'm just sounding all over the place. Learn from this and take the criticism at art. I know some of these criticisms are just basically a bunch of people more angry that conservatives are doing something. I get it. I get it. How dare conservatives do something? But obviously, obviously, you can ignore that and focus on the actual criticism that, okay, you know what, this could have been done better. This could have been worked on better. We could have worked with the animators a bit better. We could have provided more stuff for them, and we will fix that. We will fix that. Next thing is, of course, what they need is iconic characters. Now, I know they have the character Mabel McClay, which is more for live action show, but they do have books, and the books, when they first announced Mabel McClay, I expected it to be an animation. I never expected it to be real life. So it's a live action show, and it's interesting, but it's not like the most iconic thing ever, because if you're gonna make children's shows, you also need cartoon characters. And I'm not saying cartoons are only for kids. I think cartoons can be for everyone. I mean, even adults love Bluey. I don't. I'm one of the adults that don't like Bluey. Okay, I, I guess I'm the black sheep of the world. You know, regardless, um, even adults can love children's shows. So, and especially cartoons. So obviously, make iconic cartoon characters. Obviously, they can have iconic real characters, but I think it's more easier just to work off with cartoon characters because you can be a bit more creative with designing them. You can be a bit more vivid with their, their appearance and everything like that. So they need iconic cartoon characters. And when I mean iconic, I mean characters that can actually stand out. Characters that, okay, when you just see a small a small, okay, let's just say for the sake of the argument, this is a character. The stick figure is a character. Okay, and we give him this curly hair that looks like a tree. So anytime you just see this small frame, you will know it belongs to this character. In fact, there is a character that has like a weird curly hair, um, not with Daily Wire, but from a different cartoon I'm talking about ages ago. I don't know if you heard of the cartoon, Gerald McBoing Boing. I'm sure you guys heard of it. The character had like a curl. From what I can remember, the character had like a curl, you know. So yeah, but overall, that's even an iconic character because the character may be human, but the character also speaks in different sounds. And when you just think of that curl, I think of Gerald McBoing Boing. You see what I'm saying? Or when you think of, for instance, what else? When you think of, I'm trying to think now, because there's so many iconic characters, and I suck at drawing, you know. So, for instance, I can't draw this correctly. This is just going to be a draft drawing, so don't judge me so harshly, okay? Okay, no, this is not good. This is not good. I was trying to draw Donald Duck's hat, his sailor hat, but when you look at that sailor hat, you know it's Donald Duck. When you look at Mickey Mouse pants, just these pants, you know it's Mickey Mouse. You know what I'm saying? You need something where even if it's a small little symbol on them, people will snap their fingers and say, "Oh, that belongs to that character." So you need the iconic character. You need it to be also part of a brand itself because you want it to be representing Bent Key. And speaking of Bent Key, so Bent Key obviously means, um, well, when you think about it, when you think about Bent Key, what images does it put in your mind? Obviously, it's a bent key, but it makes you think of bizarre stuff because you know keys, they break. They actually break. They don't really bend unless they're made of some kind of rubber. Because fun fact, years ago, I think 2022, I broke the house key. I broke my house key because I turned it too hard, and I broke it. It snapped. It's completely snapped. So it did not bend. It just snapped. And so, okay, funny story aside, you have a bent key. I'm sorry if this does not look like a proper key. I have to turn it around. So you have a bent key. You know, it's a key that's bent. What story? What stories can you get for this? to represent a brand like Bentkey? Obviously, unusual stories. Unusual stories. Now, unusual can mean anything. Now, in modern times, unusual also means maybe 1950s usual, you know, because what happened 100 years ago is not usual now. You know what I'm saying? So, for instance, when you think of Bentkey, well, when I think of Benki, I think of unusual stuff. I wanted to have unusual stuff, iconic characters, unusual things at times, and sometimes maybe a couple of like usual stuff, you know, a couple of common things. But that's all I think of, you know. That's the thing. It's you need something to represent that, and representing it is very important. So have characters that could be bizarre, that also could be interesting. Maybe you know, since it's unusual to have very traditional stories, they can have something like this for Bent Key because it's unusual now. You know, having a story where possibly, you know, you're just a princess and you're waiting for a knight to rescue you. These type of stories may seem like pretty recent, but in reality, modern times they don't really have a story where it's very traditional. It always breaks tradition, you know, because now the regular key has become has become um, more about the okay. This is not scripted. I need to work on my words properly. For instance, what was usual back in the day? Let's just say in the 1950s. 1950s, a lot of things were usual back in the day. You know, traditional storytelling, you know, the idea of like the idea of like you could say masculine stories or whatever, or masculine comic book characters and whatnot. So obviously the more unusual stuff came out later, and it was all about breaking stereotypes and stuff like that. And then that was it, right? That was it. And then that became the usual. So the usual key used to be the unusual. You know what I'm saying? So what used to be very bizarre back in the day is now the norm. And the norm back in the day has now become the unusual. So it's become a bent key, something you never see. So I think if they work with a couple of traditional stuff, so for instance, let's just say a story that takes place in medieval Europe, that would be interesting. A children's story about knights, maybe a children's story about princesses, you know, and these can be very original because you can make them. You know, you don't have to also rely on the past too. I get it. The past is, you know, the past, many of us have special connections to the past. People lived better times, at least they were more peaceful. Okay, not every time. I know what people are going to say. You're wrong on that. I know. I understand what you mean. Not everything was butterflies. I get it. But some things were peaceful. And sometimes things people just were more happy. At times people were more happier. You know, they were more happier with less. You know what I'm saying? And they had to make do with whatever they had. So obviously you can write stories like that. You can write traditional stories. Modern writers can also write traditional stories if they wanted to, you know? So try having stuff like that. Try having stuff where it's traditional, you know? And when I mean traditional, I don't mean forcing people to believe in something that they don't. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like for instance, I don't want a cartoon where the entire life lesson is the the female character needs needs to needs to go back to a housewife. I don't want that. I would rather have a story where the character happens to be a housewife. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I rather have a character where from the beginning she's a housewife. You know what I'm saying? Look, I don't mind having stories where characters evolve. I don't mind that. But I think right now for telling traditional stories, having a tale like this for a children's tale at least isn't going to work. Where you have like your modern day girl go back into like the old times and just become part of like the old tradition. It will make sense for maybe a teen book, but obviously, okay, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. It could work, but I think right now that should not be a thing. Like, like if that's going to happen, the message shouldn't be everyone must do it. Okay, okay, great. I'm messing up already. I'm messing up so much on this video. I'm messing up so much because this is not a scripted video. I want to pour my heart out, but I don't really know how to put it in proper words. Because when I write, I can write better, but I just can't speak properly. So, okay, let me restart. Let me restart, okay? Let me hit the restart button and let me say, okay, these stories can exist where, you know, like someone from a modern lifestyle can go into a traditional lifestyle. But that shouldn't be the message of of a Daily Wire cartoon, right? It shouldn't be the message because I feel like they will focus too much on the message, you know? And if they have a story like that where, modern goes traditional, then it shouldn't be that the entire message shouldn't be that your life will be better if you become traditional. It shouldn't be that. That can be a story itself, but the message itself shouldn't be about feminism versus traditionalism. It shouldn't be that. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. You can maybe have a story like that, but you can't have a story where that's the main message. Like you can't have a story like that because I don't want children to be learning about that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Because you might as well just ignore it altogether. I get that the other side, they're going to be doing it more often. In Hollywood, there's so much of woke stuff everywhere. Even on the children's cartoons, there's just so much of wokeness. But it doesn't mean that you need to do the opposite. You can have similar stories like this, but you don't have to make it like a message story. Maybe the character personally feels like she wants to live this life instead of it being a message. Okay, so where was I with this entire point? What I could have done. I could have at least recorded a separate video. So what they could do at least is maybe have stories where, like, okay, how about a knight rescuing a princess? Or it's like a series where a knight rescues princesses from dragons, like they rescue from the towers and stuff like that. And it's gonna be kind of cool, you know, kind of rescue. It's kind of cool. I like that. I like that, because that itself doesn't really have a message. It doesn't really have a message of this is right, this is wrong. It just goes on with the life of a knight rescuing princesses, you know. So the traditional story is worked in rather than having it be a message. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want it to be like that all the time. I'm not saying message shows can't exist. I think you can have shows where they have messages, but not everything needs to be like that. And when it comes to children's stuff, you can have some messages, but it needs to be worked in. For instance, be kind, don't bully children, or don't bully anyone. Like those type of messages, it can be worked in an episode rather than trying to make it like a message altogether. And it shouldn't really hit the head on, like, it shouldn't really hit so heavy on the head. It should feel a bit more natural. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? For instance, if a character gets bullied, the character doesn't need to break out on how bullying is just bad. The character will go through bullying and then the character will try and find solutions to stop bullying. Simple as that. And then, you know, the character doesn't have to preach about bullying to the public. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Um, wow, I'm thirsty. Give me a couple of minutes. I'll be back. Guys, I think I have a migraine. I think I have a migraine. So, hold on. Yep, I have to end the stream early, I'm afraid. I have a migraine. My vision is gone blurry and I just can't deal with it. Like I can't even see things properly now. It's blinking. I'm sorry I have to end it like this. You know what? I will continue this. I will try to continue this. I can't make promises that it's going to happen immediately. I never expected to get a migraine so quickly. I had a migraine last week Sunday, I think, and I mostly get it on Sundays. I should have known this. I should have left this live stream for another time because I'm staring at the screen, and when you stare at the screen too long, it just hurts your head. Plus, I haven't been drinking a lot of water, so uh, I'm sorry if I have to end this video. It sounds so bizarre to end it like this because I needed to go with my conclusion, but unfortunately, I can't go with that. I have a migraine, and I have to sleep now. And you know the worst part when you have a migraine? You know the worst part when you have a migraine when you wake up. A couple hours later, you have a migraine. It's 12:47 right now. Imagine that. I'm fully awake and yet I have to go back to sleep because of a migraine. And sometimes it makes me want to vomit. So yeah, every time my migraine takes a different shape, now it's taking the shape of a weird, pointy, spinny thing. I can't even explain it. It's not good. I have to go. Have a wonderful day and let me know about your thoughts on this. Can conservatives create good television? So yeah, I think they can, but I think that they just need a bit more effort, put in a bit more effort. And when it comes to Daily Wire, which was our example today, I think I need more time. And I think I need to have a proper video with at least a couple of points ahead of time so I know what I'm going to talk about because this video was all over the place. Bye.